My name is Erica Lorraine Spencer, and I remain subject to state surveillance and terrorism by the state of California that is operating a malicious targeting system which is referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices. And it is in violation of federal stalking statute 18 U.S.C. sections 2261A subsections 1 and 2. My website and podcast serve the public good by publishing evidence of the public entity's ceaseless engagement in a pattern of conduct intended to stalk and monitor via communication devices, surveil, harass, and terrorize an American citizen in concert with the people of the state of California. Documentation serves the lawful purposes of wide exposure, federal prosecution, and influencing federal legislation with policies specifically designed to punish, dismantle, and disincentivize an unprecedented targeting system by a public entity that acts in concert with the people of the state in order to criminally place under surveillance and terrorize an American citizen, which is a matter of public corruption in the state of California. Notice: intellectual property theft is particularly egregious and equally unlawful where the sole inventor and creator of the intellectual property is the targeted individual. Erica Lorraine Spencer, subject to the unconstitutional and inhumane government system of gang stalking, otherwise referred to as federal group stalking and monitoring via communication devices, because of which the intellectual property created by the targeted individual, who is, in fact, Erica Lorraine Spencer, as the intellectual property also proves, serves to establish via evidence and expose the existence of criminal surveillance and thus an inherent threat posed by the U.S. government and the civilian population sharing engagement in the unlawful system. Such evidence, that includes all of the content created by Erica Lorraine Spencer, images, videos, audio, etc., belongs solely and entirely to Erica Lorraine Spencer only and is necessarily published online in order to protect her life, safety, and liberty as the targeted individual, who is also the intellectual property owner, no less protected from theft procured through targeting by a public entity. Theft of any intellectual property belonging to Erica Lorraine Spencer, which is necessarily committed while she, being both creator and inventor, remains oppressed by the public entity via criminal surveillance, is a criminal and inhumane means of infringement under all circumstances and not protected nor enforceable pursuant to any invalid or fraudulent acts of copyright, trademarks, patents, etc., including as it pertains to any ideas associated with or generated from the intellectual property or the intellectual property owner, Erica Lorraine Spencer, whether creative, business, or otherwise, nor does the intellectual property owner consent to any such means of infringement and theft. Erica Lorraine Spencer here. The following is an audio version of video evidence that is captured for purposes of mass distribution, which is why I am capturing it and sharing it on the podcast for evidentiary purposes and also to reveal the wealth of documentation that extends beyond what it is that I document on podcasts. Much of the video and images will be published onto the YouTube channel, the P.O.C, and it is also shared on the Google Drive. Again, this is for purposes of revealing what I remain subject to, which is federal group stalking and monitoring. It is a demonic system of state surveillance that the government is practicing in concert with the people of the state, and it should be known and well understood that for the government to engage in federal group stalking and monitoring, this is a crime that is committed with a criminal purpose to threaten the life of an American citizen. This is to conspire to murder and or permanently kidnap an American citizen while engaging in a perpetual sex offense in concert with the people of the state. Alrighty, this is P.O.C. I am capturing as it's currently 6:07 a.m. and this is where the fake sun is preparing to rise, where I'm capturing the same demons doing acrobats in the commercial planes, where no plane activity outside of what is gang stalking is underway. These are the criminal elements of monitoring, where the demon possessed who are also in positions that they are unfit for, because those positions are utilized to engage in and commit terrorism, which is treason, while the U.S. military is gang stalking with the people of the state in Ontario, and they're doing so as the mentally ill under the fake sun and engineer light in relevant position. They are engaged in that which exceeds stalking in a smaller plane right now, which is where the commercial airline planes are equally and unlawfully engaged in targeting me in furtherance of murder. This is the same entity that committed criminal defamation yesterday as an entity, and also the threats to commit criminal summoning with the gang members of the city of Ontario. That includes any police department, such as they're not police officers. The Ontario police are fully exposed, engaging in the pattern of conduct, and the entity refers to them while they're gang stalking. This is the entity that did that. The people of the state are speaking as the entity that are also gang stalking. That's why the fake sun was over Rock of Faith Church. The entity is engaging in this pattern of conduct, and they're doing so, as I'm documenting right now. This is establishing what they're doing: psychopathic pacing. The mentally ill that are targeting, and this is where you saw in the evening after coming from Rock of Faith, the fake sun position here where it's set, and they're engaging in doing all manner of flips and dives and backflips, and just like at any other facilitating venue, which includes a fake church where demons will call themselves Christians, just like demons call themselves police officers, and demons call themselves parents, which has an actual meaning, right? It is Satan. And this is documentation proving that. Moreover, science is showing you what they're doing in their element, and it's criminal. And it's all state action. This is the P.O.C. The entity is stalking me with regard to obsession. The entity that is obsessed with me is also hostile to me. The entity that's obsessed with me doesn't like it that I'm calling them out as the demons that they are, and I could not care less about that. In fact, they're going to be committed with that evidence of obsessing over me and engaging what is harassing and stalking me. And the demon-possessed, the mentally ill stalk in them, okay? So they can be across the street from you while they are stalking with light activity, light that doesn't shoot off like a laser, that's not going to affect you from some distance, that is coexisting with what is criminal presence in that environment. It is criminal, including where they live, where they work, as they travel, and where they congregate, like at Rock of Faith. This is the P.O.C. It is currently 6:09 a.m. The Ontario Civic Center is where I'm subject to this, and then the entity follows with this environment and this behavior. This is the P.O.C. This is P.O.C. It's the city of Ontario that's following. This is stalking, and it's the city of Ontario that you are aware of is keeping the fake sun at the same time in Upland, California. This is assault with a deadly weapon. This is monitoring. This is the fake sun, so he knows that I'm here. And he's stalking, literally. I took a picture while they're maintaining light activity, and I'm documenting all the gang stalking on the roads and the highways. It's the prosecution of the whole state of California. And this is how you know that he knows where I'm at, because the fake sun is reflecting off of the driver. This is the prosecution of Paul Leon that has the fake sun over the Ontario City Hall, as I shared on X. For a visual regarding the prosecution of the public entity, the U.S. military, that's engaging in the pattern of conduct, which is domestic terrorism, and using the vehicles of the city as a prosecution of the mayor that is funding terrorism and furtherance of murder. And this is the demon. Alrighty, this is P.O.C. The entity that's engaging in what is battery under the fake sun, the entity that's engaging in molestation by engineer light, the criminal facilitation. This is absolutely unlawful, and it is the entity that's engaging in that. I am at what is 1316 North Euclid Avenue, and the entity is engaging in what is threatening. Pay attention, this is symbolic. Amazon Prime is gang stalking, and the people of the state, they're all hostile. Remember, I prosecuted another church, another fake church. All the demons are angry because you know what that means? I prosecuted the whole state. I prosecute the whole state every day. All right, this is the pattern of conduct. This is P.O.C. And remember, it's fine because the entire city of Ontario is going to be under martial law. They're all going under martial law, and they will be subject to involuntary commitments for this very conduct. This right here is getting them committed. This is the P.O.C. This is the fake sun over me, and this is at what is 9:29 a.m. Remember, I'm in Pomona, California. At 9:33 a.m., the entity is stalking me with UPS planes, where the city of Ontario is sharing in what is communicating a threat to my life, psychological torture, and literally stalking in vehicles of any city is a prosecution of that city. They are in their facilitating venues, monitoring, and there are a whole bunch of angry demons. And the angry demons are going under martial law. P.O.C. All right, stalking in vehicles, molesting with impossible light, stalking in planes, doing so as corrupt businesses that are going to be prosecuted. I mean, the employees, the owners, are being federally prosecuted for terrorism. While the entity is engaging this with the U.S. military, very specific pursuant to surveillance, detailed knowledge, tracking of your steps, and engaging in that while their criminal activity is documented, meaning more of those companies engage in more of it while they keep my evidence, keep me and my vagina, that is, under surveillance. P.O.C. That's fine. It's called a backfire. And if you want to be federally prosecuted, that's exactly what you're getting. Because Satan is not hiding anywhere, certainly not in any corporation. It is currently 9:30 a.m. The city of Pomona is serving to prosecute what is the intent, the knowledge, the stalking conduct in the absurd manners, such as what the city of Ontario is doing. This is P.O.C. It's angry vagina monitors. Nobody cares. P.O.C. And this is where I'm at, by the way. Loaves and Fishes, where the entity would have, you already know that the pattern of conduct is underway, and the entity is exposing that the entities include the community churches, where there's not going to be any exception to the application of federal law, in other words. But this is the Friday. Today is, like I was just looking at, and the entity flies over my head under the fake sun. So this is indeed the P.O.C, and this is also speaking to the entity that is targeting while they are, like I already documented, hitting me. As I documented, the people of the state engaged in that, they're doing so as the entity, that's the military, flying over me. And the entity, I want to be clear, they're going to prison. I documented them, I showed those old biddies are going to prison. So I just want to be clear, it is currently, it's the 5th. And the entity is engaging in psychopathic pacing. This is the entity that was stalking at the Upland Public Library as well, follows me to Ontario, and is very, very much mentally ill, okay? The mental illness is shared by those who are not arriving, and the entity is aware that the U.S. military is going to engage in psychopathic pacing. The entity is in relevant position. They're just inconspicuously present. I'm gonna get these license plates. But the entity is engaging in this pattern of conduct, number one, with knowledge that I'm coming here. Number two, it's speaking to what they're doing when I am here, just like what I documented when they're engaging in battery. And this is the entity that is also exemplifying severe mental instability, the psychopathic pacing, and they're doing so at a venue where their criminal activity and their presence and the maintenance of this venue is speaking to the pattern of conduct. These are the mentally ill psychopaths that expose each other while they are focused on gang stalking me. This is relevant to what Rock of Faith is engaging in yesterday. You already know that. While the entity is making false allegations, while they're gang stalking, Eddie is going to prison, and so is the gang stalker that's working at that fake church. Another one, monitoring. And this is the entity that, on whose behalf they're making malicious assertions, while they are engaging in the pattern of conduct of harassment as hostile psychopaths who stalk me in helicopters and then engage in what is harassment through the people of the state that are the demons pacing all around me as well under the fake sun. So I just want to be clear, the only thing that the entity is accomplishing is the fact that this fake church is engaged in gang stalking when they are serving foods and they're at the venue. This is not separate from what they're doing, and they're not serving food today. This is supposed to be some sort of, they're not serving food and you're hungry, so I'm going to stalk you in helicopter. These demons are going to prison. All right, this is the P.O.C. The old ladies that are on video hitting me and the third-party gang stalker with the dog in the stroller that's engaged in a battery, as I documented, this is the entity, they're going to prison. All three of them are going to federal prison, and this is the entity that they're engaging in battery on behalf of, and this is the entity that are not the real Church of Christ Jesus. The entity is engaging in battery vicariously, engaging in waging false assertions vicariously, and they're doing so in that specific environment. I just want to be clear on that. This is the P.O.C. This is also relevant to where I came from today. Upland Public Library, that's Elizabeth and Ashley, Adam Tuckerman, Kiki, Ellen, that are engaging in the pattern of conduct, and they're doing so. They're going to federal prison as well, systematically monitoring. And the entity is engaging when they are in service of food, just like you see this is why they're going to prison. Because this is the entity that poisons on behalf of that entity that just exposed the fact that this is a gang stalking church, which is a threat to the public. All right, this is the entity that engages in this, and this is what they were all engaging in. They want, this is how pathetic the demon possessed are. Oh, she's gonna walk to the church and no one's gonna be there, and so we're gonna stalk her by helicopter so that everyone knows, including the feds know, which I represent, I'm speaking as the authority, that they're engaged in criminal monitoring. In fact, which you already know, but the entity engaging in this confirms that, and everybody is going to federal prison pursuant to that. These are demons that are also homeless, and they're going to prison. So I guess that might be better than sleeping outside, but the entity is going to federal prison. These are the rules, and you're looking at the entity that's mentally ill, that makes very poor choices while they are focused on me. I do not care, okay? This is the entity that's more obsessed with my vagina and engage in self-harm. You're going to prison while I'm at the fake church and the entity stalking me by helicopter, in case you haven't gathered that. You're going to prison while I document you while you are in relevant position. And this is relevant to every single time you are at this venue and anyone at this venue and the purpose of this venue, which is surveillance, not worshiping the Lord God. This is P.O.C. This is the entity that's engaged in that pattern of conduct, and they're doing so pursuant to surveillance, which the entire neighborhood shares in. And I've already been down this street. I've already documented their houses and their license plates, and they're sharing in that criminal P.O.C. This is license plate 9TR374. I just want to, this is severe mental instability that the entity is exposing about itself, including the people of the state that are hiding in relevant position. You already know that the entity is always, and these license plates represent that presence as well, and that presence is criminal. But the entity is exposing how mentally unstable that they are while they engage in that pattern of conduct. That's a demon that's surrounding. That's doing half of the entity that is psychopathic, and the fake sun is moving with me. This is how you know that they are stalking and they're engaging in that purpose of surrounding. That's license 9 Mary George Paul 514 P.O.C. These are the mentally ill. And these are the demons. This is the entity, the demon possessed, that intended to commit murder. Understand why they're gang stalking. And they're still doing so in furtherance of murder. This was the purpose of stalking me. This is the purpose of maintaining comprehensive surveillance in malicious ways, such as with a fake church that's engaged in surveillance with the people of the state, all of whom are demons that have been relegated to harassing and making malicious assertions, which is also federal offenses while the entity is doing so in furtherance of murder. Never mind the fact that they're not going to accomplish it. The U.S. military, the people of the state, people like Tracy Banks and Jason Fields are going to prison because this is terrorism under all circumstances. P.O.C. All right, this is the entity that's engaged in that, and the people of the state are going to prison. The government has already handled. The purpose of this investigation is to let you know that surveillance is underway throughout the United States. It is 5:53 p.m. There was no sun in Florida today at all. Okay, the entity's keeping it here 3 hours ahead. It's already dark in Florida, and it remained over me as I documented, including over the Upland Public Library in the same position that it was in the morning when I arrived at or around 10 a.m. This is the pattern of conduct, and this is the entity that is subject to federal prison, and there is no bar with regard to how many defendants. I mean, everybody at Alvarado Gardens is going to federal prison that I documented. The entity at Economy Inn, that hotel, committed kidnapping. They're going to federal prison. The entity that's gang stalking at 7-Eleven committing poison, all those employees are going to federal prison. All the employees of the Fontana Lewis Library, I'm documenting, Stephanie Ortiz, she's going to federal prison. The kidnappers of the Fontana Police, the entity that's gang stalking the kidnappers of the Ontario Police Department, that entire department is being disbanded, and they're all going to federal prison as I've documented them kidnapping and engaging in stalking. The demons of the Upland Police Department kidnapping and engaging in stalking, they're going to federal prison. The entity that's engaging in what is the pattern of conduct at Woodside Senior Apartments, units 33 through 64, they're all going to federal prison. I'm speaking to those that are going to do time in prison. The entity is being prosecuted as domestic terrorists. That's everybody. And there is a large portion that is also going to prison, and there is no such thing as too many suffering what are the penalties for terrorism. And you have the entity that's engaging in physical violence. Those two old ladies that are on video, they're going to federal prison. All right, and so is the third party. He's always gang stalking me throughout the city of Ontario, and he is going to federal prison. The entity that is violating you and doing so, and this is the entity that provides evidence that they are in fact gang stalking while I go to the venue, and this is what an entity is doing. This is not witchcraft. This is supposed to be something that, oh, you're going to cry now because they're not serving food today, and as you cry, I'm going to fly in circles over your head. This is the entity that's engaging in psychological torture. Okay, the psychological torture is the evidence used to diagnose mental instability, and that's exactly what you witnessed while the entity flew in circles over me, incriminating the people of the state. All right, this is P.O.C. This is I Street, I as in Indiana, and Euclid Avenue, where I've documented the entity gang stalking me by the Ontario International Airport when I'm walking to Upland, California early in the morning. That's the evidence that's already on the record. And this is, again, another venue. They're crossing paths. They're all stalking. The entity is engaging in that while they are the people of the state that are going to be subject to martial law. And that's because they are a mentally ill population. Okay, I do want to be clear. The entity is engaging in what are changing their dates, making the meals unavailable. I'm speaking to those that work at the venue, and that is rapidly changing, and that's because I'm documenting. So the entity that's engaging in that, they're talking about the 5th Thursday, the 5th Friday. It is the 1st Friday of June, and the entity is engaging in that which is not published, and it's also contradicting what they are telling me. And remember, these are gang stalkers telling me this, and this is the entity that plans to engage in this documented act of terrorism. Every volunteer, they're also doing so with the students that are engaged in the pattern of conduct, and I want to be clear, they're subject to prison in the first place because they're serving food, and you're looking at the policy as to why that is the case. Literally, this video evidence is as to why. This is the entity doing so under the guise of being Stater Brothers, a grocery store? No, they're engaged in surveillance, and that's why they're going to federal prison. All of those employees There is a long list of those that are going to be inmates, and this is exactly why. There is no such thing. And under federal law, where the government's engaged in surveillance with an entire population, you are absolutely getting justice, even where hundreds of people are going to federal prison, and that's justice. They will be scattered in this country. There will be facilities built and constructed for it. They will be involuntarily committed based on what it is that I'm documenting right now. And you are documented and you are going to prison while I capture any means of presence, and that includes the license plates. This is the pattern of conduct. It is currently 5:57 p.m. This is relevant to the entity gang stalking at Rock of Faith yesterday. That ongoing false allegations, like I'm going to steal, period, let alone from homeless people that are monitoring my vagina. And this is where the entity is referring to the Ontario police. That's a threat. While they are psychotic, gang stalking with that entity that is fully surrounded with evidence already, including Eddie that is gang stalking me with the San Bernardino Police Department and the Ontario Police Department. He's going to prison and he's engaging in what is an assault. And they plan that together to engage in what is harassing me and expelling me and making me feel unwelcome. And this is how they treat the homeless. These are not Christians. Moreover, these are defendants and they're going to prison. This is P.O.C. I will continuously document these fake churches, and I'm going to document them because it's criminal activity while they're engaging in surveillance, not merely being ungodly and demonic, but they are engaging in criminal activity, and I'm going to continue to document them while they seek to expel me from these venues, while they're supposed to be providing food to the homeless, and they also receive money and assistance under that malicious and false pretense. This is P.O.C. It is currently 5:58 p.m. This is the Methodist Church at I Street and Euclid, where this morning I was present. You're going to look at the pictures. I was present this morning walking on Euclid, and this same population was stalking me with the City of Ontario that was maintaining light activity right here. Okay, so the entity is maintaining plane activity, and this is a stalker in close proximity with a communication device. The entity is amplifying plane activity while after they engaged in what is getting their rocks off by flying in circles over the top of the prosecutor's head. The prosecutor that's having them committed. That's the very information that's going to be produced. It's not remaining a mystery. They're going to produce their identity, and they're going to. And those that are part of these fake churches, this is the Methodist Church. This is where I was this morning at I Street in Euclid, and they are going to prison. This is P.O.C. It is currently, while I am at the facilitating venue of where license 8G and 118. They are absolutely stalking. That's why the entity pulls out a helicopter. They're not just engaging in that while I'm by myself and nobody's around. Clearly, that's not the case. But they are monitoring in their homes while they share in that ongoing open engagement and terrorizing someone together. And these are demons that derive pleasure out of that. This is necessary commitments for psychopaths that engage in what is a system designed to murder and kidnap people. License 8GSL118, 9KTT779. License plate 6KGZ729. Alrighty, this is where also you're mindful of, this is where the entity is gang stalking by Amazon Prime. Amazon Prime is delivering packages in this neighborhood, gang stalking me, sharing in the same psychopathic pattern of conduct, and doing so while using packages and a logo to do so. This is the entity that's engaging in what is stalking by the Ontario International Airport, which is the U.S. military, stalking me in those planes and those commercial planes and in the helicopter, like you just saw them exemplify. Okay, this is a demon that is gang stalking. Okay, that's the P.O.C. And these are the demons that are engaging in that while I continuously publish evidence, which is triggering the murderers who are being prosecuted and who are going to be subject to martial law. Okay, that's the pattern of conduct. These are the people of the state that are sharing in this, and I'm documenting them. This entire neighborhood, and it's the whole city. By the way, it is the Ontario Police Department as well. They're being disbanded. The ones that the gang stalkers refer to are the ones that are being disbanded and prosecuted, and Mike LORENZ is going to prison while I have a body of evidence of him and the military stalking me by helicopter for years, and he's going to be subject to mental examinations, and he is not the only one. This is P.O.C. Alrighty, this is I Street and Euclid. So this is why you're also going to prison, because while these gang stalking churches are engaged in the service of food with the that's what that is right there, City of Ontario, Vehicle 4241. These gang stalking churches are going to be subject to federal prison. All right, that's the P.O.C. And the entity is engaged in this because they are seeking to deter me from going to the venues. It's not. I'm going to go document what are gang stalkers, and they are going to federal prison for serving food and threatening my life by stalking with the U.S. military. All right, that's the pattern of conduct. It's currently 6:01 p.m. Alrighty, this is P.O.C. This is, again, psychopathic pacing. which Paul Leon is engaged in, while City of Ontario vehicles are part of the gang stalking on Euclid Avenue, which, by the way, where the government is engaging in surveillance and furtherance of murder on any state highway, on the U.S., on the roads and the highways, interstate commerce, that's a prosecution of the whole state, by the way. That's prosecution of the whole state, while the entity implicates interstate commerce. Number one. Number two, it is federal stalking under Title 18. And this is the entity that is, I want to make sure that this is clear. The entity is engaged in this because they don't want me to arrive anymore. That's part of the reason why. Because they are gang stalking, and it's because they're fearful. These are demons who are not all powerful. Those of you who are engaging in what is this pattern of conduct, who follow Satan and convinced you, lied to you, that Satan is some all-powerful God. No, he's not. These are pansies. And while pansies are engaging in federal offenses, these pansies are getting locked up. And it is a testimony to how weak Satan is. You're literally incriminating yourself, and they risk it because they're that scared of me. All right, and guess what? I'm still going to go, because now I'm going to document all the gang stalkers while they're engaging in that pattern of conduct. That's what's going to happen now. The entity that is flying over any church, that church is engaging in the pattern of conduct. Flying over any venue, such as their homes, that the people in that venue are, and it is a venue because the government's flying over it, and that speaks to the whole city. They are engaging in that pattern of conduct. That's why the fake sun, the supernatural, is there. Okay, this is the P.O.C. The entity is engaging in this conduct, and that's because they are engaging in surveillance, and they are aware, even though there's been no incident, there's been no circumstance where you're aware of me pulling out my phone like Rock of Faith admitted on video yesterday. All of a sudden, there's some circumstance, but I haven't even been there in over a month, number one. And number two, when I was there, I did not document, and that's already on the record. As of today, June 5th, 2026, you can look at prior to yesterday, and the time before that was when I showed up and no one was there, and I documented how that is also them targeting, just like today. This is targeting while they're switching the days where they're having the feeding. And you also know that it's targeting under also because look at who is here. Okay, it's merely engaging this conspicuously. This is what they're always doing when they're serving the meals, monitoring me, always, even when they hide the helicopter activity. Because all the homeless bums, they don't want to be here and getting all their license plates and you seeing them on video. It's too late. They might as well be here because they're all documented. It's the same group of demons that are homeless, that are gang stalking. And the homeless are going to federal prison. And so are those that are feeding the homeless while gang stalking me. And they're engaging in what is acts of terrorism and harassment while they're making admissions. Why are you targeting me and there has not been an incident here? It's because you are indeed targeting me. You know who I am, and you also know about the evidence that's on the internet, which is relevant to your being sentenced even longer. Okay? That's the pattern of conduct. Alrighty, I'm going to document. This is also evidence that everybody else knew. They don't send out emails, but everybody else knew, contrary to what was discussed. These volunteers are speaking of, oh, I'll see you on Friday. Sylvia, talking about being at the church. Sylvia is one of these gang stalkers that showed up at the laundromat that you also know is gang stalking me. This is documentation of the homeless community who are being prosecuted. And this is how the government is aiding in the government being prosecuted, because the people of the state are not private citizens. They're the entity. And that's why I'm subject to the pattern of conduct. And I don't go into any church where they're feeding the homeless where I'm not subject to that pattern of conduct. And they literally provide evidence about it, including when they are harassing for no reason whatsoever, because the entity is engaging what is making false allegations, and you're also looking at the unreasonable behavior. If you don't know anything about what's going on, you're talking about, if it's just about the fact that I'm recording this person, you're not listening to the fact that he's threatening to call the police for, and I'm talking about yesterday at the other gang stalking venue, Rock of Faith. All right, this is Loaves and Fishes, the Methodist Church. And so the entity's engaging in what is making allegations. Oh, it's about this is because you're recording him right now. But if you listen to that older white male who is yelling, he is barking. He's growling at me. And he's in my face, and he also commits a battery. And he says, you have a thing, quote, with making people angry about this phone. And I've never talked to him about it, never had any incident. Don't pull out my phone at that church. And I haven't been there in over a month. This is an entity. All I'm doing is showing you, but you already know that this is the entity monitoring. I'm showing you how you are dissecting the facts while they make admissions, because they're demons that don't have any self-control, and they want me to just stop going. They just don't want me to go while they're gang stalking. And this is Eddie. Eddie's doing so because he is hostile. Pay attention to what was published today. April 25th, 2026. Yesterday, I finished April 24th. That demon is very fearful and aware that that's coming up next, where he's trying to lie and create a narrative, which you cannot do. Everybody knows that I'm not stealing anything, and I don't have to lie about stealing anything. I have wealth and assets that have been stolen from me. And I'm sleeping outside as an attorney, not because I'm some thief stealing from people that don't wash, stealing from drug addicts that are missing teeth. No, I don't think so. This is the entity that's engaged in that pattern of conduct, and he is doing so harassing pursuant to that P.O.C. Surveillance of evidence that's published on the internet, in concert with the homosexuals that are engaging in what are providing multi-levels of evidence against the people of the state who are facing their own prosecution. They're being prosecuted while they're targeting with the U.S. military. Understand that, and they're all by themselves. The government has provided evidence against them. That's what's happening. And the entity that stalks you by helicopter at the fake church is the one that is prosecuting, giving me evidence that they are indeed hitting me as gang stalkers and not hitting me as private citizens. There's a difference. When you're a terrorist engaging in battery on behalf of the state, you're going to prison. When you're a private citizen engaging in what is an accidental battery, however you want to claim it, even if you intentionally hit me, that's a difference. You're going to prison for gang stalking and engaging in what is battery. That's what they are accomplishing. And I'm going to continue to go here because this is the entity that's harassing. And this is why they're going to be defunded, and that's why they're going to prison. And this is where you need to know that the demons are dwelling, and this is where you need to know that the criminals are at. That's why the Lord God had me go to the library, had me go to the fake churches to be outside amongst those that are sharing. They're equally criminal, equally psychotic, equally a threat. All right, that's what's relevant, because you need to know the commoners are engaging, and by commoners I mean it's not just the public officials. They can't do it without the violent terrorists that fill the state. They're all demons, and they're exceedingly violent psychopaths that are bloodthirsty, and they engage in together terrorizing someone, and the entity has provided evidence against them. I'm going to prosecute every single last one of them with a body of evidence. You are not an individual. You are not a private citizen. That is not private property. You are in fact a third party, and you're being prosecuted as a terrorist. That's the P.O.C. It is currently 6:10 p.m. DJ, this is Erica. I was calling because I went over to the Methodist Church. Is there no meal today? I thought you said on Wednesday that it would be on Friday.
It is at the park.
At the park?
Yeah.
Which park?
That's what I'm telling you.
What park?
San Antonio Beach.
San Antonio and, oh, the James Bryant Park?
Yeah.
Okay, so there, is that because it's the, I thought you said that it's the 5th Thursday, or Friday, excuse me.
No, okay, listen. The first Friday and the third Friday at the park at 4 o'clock. The second and the fourth at the church at I.I.S. at 6 o'clock. What it does is every other week it goes the park, the church, park,
right.
The church.
And then that's what I've been doing. And then the only exception was at the 5th one. So I found out at Rock of Faith, the 5th Thursday, there was nothing about a first Thursday. At Rock of Faith, it's the 5th Thursday. And then on Wednesday, I thought it would be like the 5th Friday. So you're saying it's not that?
We don't do a 5th Friday.
Right. So I thought okay, so you don't do a 5th Friday. So it's at the park when? When is it at the park then?
The first Friday and the third Friday.
First and third Friday?
Yep. It's every other week. We're at the park today. We'll be at the church next Friday.
Okay, so I thought they had it was supposed to be at the park last week. So you guys switched up the days?
No, that was the 5th Friday.
Oh, okay. So because it was a 5th Friday?
Yeah, we didn't do nothing.
Got it. And so this Friday, the first one, it's at the park.
That was today.
That was today. And then, next Friday it's at the church, right? Where I just came from.
At I.I.S.
At I.I.S, right. Okay. Okay, thank you for telling me. I didn't mean to bother you, but I was...
I thought you can call me anytime. I thought I told you Wednesday how it worked.
You said, you thought what?
I thought I told you Wednesday.
You told me Wednesday. On Wednesday, you said, I'll see you at the church. I thought, even Sylvia was there, and I thought it was going to be at the church.
No.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
That's what I'm saying. If you guys switch the days or something, but you're saying it was because it was I don't count the park. As far as the church, it's every other Friday. So I know since the park was, I thought was last Friday, but that was canceled. So this Friday I thought would be at the church. But you're saying it was canceled last Friday because that was the 5th Friday, right?
Yeah.
So that means the next Friday is at the park as well, right?
No. Today.
No, I mean, yeah, the next Friday, which is today, is at the park, correct?
Yeah.
And then the next Friday is at the church.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand that. And so it did say the dates on there, but there was a little bit of confusion, so I wanted to call and just ask you that really quick, because otherwise I wouldn't bother you. You know, I wouldn't bother you. But
You can bother me anytime.
thank you. So the church and the park are the same. That's the same church. It's the same United Methodist Church.
It's the same boat and fishing thing.
Can you say that again? It's the same what?
Boat and fishing. That's what it's called.
Oh, Loaves and Fishes. Yeah. Okay. It's the same like organization or program or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay. So at the that's the same thing. Okay. Yeah, I had them separate in my mind too. One is at the church and one is at the park. Okay. Thank you for clarifying that. So next Friday it'll be at the church where I'm at now. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Come and do your laundry Wednesday.
I'll try. It's just it's a far walk for me. It's kind of hot, you know. But I definitely do. I have to, because I don't go too many weeks without. I need to, clean my my sleeping bag and all my stuff, my materials. So definitely.
If there's some laundry on Wednesday, I'll tell you again.
Okay. Thank you for the reminder. All right. Have a good one. Bye. Okay, that is one of the volunteers, and while I'm talking to him, he is monitoring. Understand, on the communication device, it's presence. Presence is not limited to, they have to be in your face and make audible noise. Think about it. You're making audible activity when you leave your phone somewhere, you leave your phone in the bathroom, someone is talking on the phone, speakerphone, not even a communication device necessarily, anything that's making noise. But this is an inanimate object that's also a communication device. He is monitoring while the U.S. military is still stalking by helicopter, which I did not state, while BJ is the name that he goes by, is speaking to me. He is one of the volunteers at Loaves and Fishes. He is gang stalking me. This is one that likes to be pleasant while he's engaging in that demented pattern of conduct in furtherance of murder. Okay, so it's not a matter of being cheerful and being nice. He's equally targeting me and is aware of the fact, monitoring. And I want to be clear, the extensive knowledge. He even knows that the entity are stalking me by helicopter right now while I'm talking to him on the phone. He also knows that he's being recorded. They know all of that. Okay, but I just want to be clear. The entity is stalking by helicopter, and this is the strict liability basis for prosecution, because he's monitoring, and he's engaged in the elements of monitoring with the police, with the U.S. military that are stalking in a helicopter. That is prison. You need to understand it's strict application of the elements. While I get anybody's license plate, while I'm in front of anybody's house, while anybody's crossing path like a police vehicle or even a third party. This is how you're going to prosecute what is a vast population, in the ways in which I've shown you all the creative ways of getting documentation evidence, which they're always given to you, because there is no way for them to inconspicuously gang stalk you. They're stalking you with noise that you're going to hear. They're stalking you in the path while you are going to see them. Even though, and you will see them even when they're in your path inconspicuously, like being in an apartment above you. But they're always amplifying audible activity to monitor you. And the entity is at one point or another coming downstairs. The entity is certainly one that is engaging what is crossing your path outside of your windows. It's impossible, because they're obsessively stalking. They cannot do it inconspicuously. And the entity is engaging in this while they are sharing in the elements of monitoring. You're co-conspiring in murder. And the conspiracy to murder, you are sharing in that while you are gang stalking, you are going to prison. And this is BJ that's on the communication device. So I want to underscore that. And I have proven through literally the pattern of conduct, while a fake sun remains over me and moves as I move, they are sharing knowledge about me, who I am, and what it is that I'm doing, including while they are at a distance away. This is how you're monitoring with amplified noise while I'm in the bathroom, and the moment that I pull my panties down, amplified noise is ongoing. They're not physically looking at you. These are demons, and they're going to be prosecuted for their satanic means, which is psychological torture while they're stalking you through demonic activity. It's psychological torture, and it is also evidence to have them committed regarding their mental illness, which is psychopathic and antisocial. BJ is engaging in what is giving me information about Loaves and Fishes, so I wanted to preface that with that. All right, BJ is engaging at the James Bryant Park. I documented the entity stalking. under the fake sun. En route to that venue and back, I documented the fake sun and UPS, Southwest Airlines gang stalking under the fake sun, UPS flying over the park. I documented all that. They are monitoring, and BJ is engaged in routinely monitoring me. The volunteers are engaged in the pattern of conduct, and while I go to the church and they go to the park, the entity is aware of that, and they are targeting me while they are engaging in the P.O.C. as the entity flies in circles over my head, okay? So I go to the, this is what I mean with regard to going to Rock of Faith, and while they're not serving food, I'm still being targeted. Who's crossing path in that video? The vagina monitors of the Ontario Police. Those are stalkers. And what is over my head? The fake sun. And who is still crossing path and present? That fake church is merely an example that there is no exception whatsoever to a pattern of conduct. If you think, number one, that they're Christians, they're not. And if you think that any sort of position or status is an exception, it is not. If you think that they're Christians and you never saw any evidence otherwise, if someone is gang stalking you, that is your evidence that they are not Christians. That is literally the tangible evidence. This is what Christ Jesus has provided to people. The evidence regarding what the demon-possessed want to hide from you. And as I'm prosecuting with tangible evidence, what the government wanted to hide. The government is so psychotic and unhinged, they couldn't hide a hot air balloon. They couldn't hide anything. That's how psychotic they are. All right, this is the entity that's engaged in that. This is a prosecution for federal prison. Everybody that's volunteering at that church is gang stalking, and they're doing so while they're serving food. That's prison. The entity is engaging with us harassment, like I'm documenting at Rock of Faith. They're doing so while they are third parties, and that's federal prison. While they're also, all that evidence, criminal summoning, or the threat to engage in criminal summoning. You're threatening to call the police when the police are stalking, which I have on video, even while you're not serving food on that day, which all of those homeless gang stalkers and all of those demons that work at that fake church volunteering to serve food to the homeless are aware of. They are still targeting you while I go to these venues and they're not serving food at that time. And they are engaging in malicious conduct, as I was speaking of. They are engaging in malicious conduct such as altering and changing what is available, what's not available. I've documented that means of targeting as well, okay? This is the entity that's engaging in things such as excluding me from the Ovid Family Community Library and making up a reason to do so. They literally pulled it out of the thin air, and they did it under the fake sun. Gerber's going to prison while you're looking at the U.S. military, the Ontario Police stalking me by helicopter. So what is this fool talking about? Seriously, when you're looking at that evidence, and no federal judge is going to hesitate either. He's going to prison. And that's just one example. He's going to federal prison, and he's going for a very long time. He's going for a very long time. But it is Providence, because since I've been going to Upland, California, you're seeing what was always the case. The evidence that I already have on the record as of 2019 remains highly probative and relevant, no less scientific, and no less evidence that's putting these demons in prison. That is speaking to what is a license plate 9JQA292, stalking at Chevron at 506 North Euclid Avenue, while the entity is stalking by commercial planes, okay? But the entity is engaged, and it is currently, by the way, 6:28 p.m. But what it is that this entity is doing with regard to my documenting and prosecuting the homeless population, all right? So the entity is engaging in what is targeting me, and I have targeted all the classes of gang stalkers, if you will. They are getting equal protection under the federal laws that are going to be applied liberally with regard to prosecuting a whole population. Okay, and that targeting is necessary because of the defendant that is numerous, okay, high numerosity. So I'm going to show you what this population does. I'm going to show you how there's no difference with regard to the demographics, which is an illusion to you. Black people are not gang stalking more than rich white people. That's an illusion. That's an illusion that serves the system of gang stalking. Okay, and it's also serving an illusion regarding demons that are highly racist. That's a spirit, but it's an illusion. It's irrelevant. Get rid of it. Get rid of that out of your mind. It has nothing to do with that. The entity that's gang stalking me in San Diego County, living in many mansions, and those demons are monitoring my vagina. Okay, old white women engaging in surveillance in the parking garage at the Marriott Bonvoy Hotel. While Impossible Light fills that venue, obsessively stalking, devoted, committed to stalking me, invested in it. And they're demons, and they know who I am while I visit that city and I show a body of evidence which is impossible for me to have been able to collect. But I collected it because it is in fact evidence of criminal surveillance by the government that is first of all stalking me, following me around, and doing so while everywhere that I go surveillance is underway, while a system is underway throughout California. And they're all demons that are in a demonic environment, such as a fake sun, such as with engineer light, such as with idiots that stalk, obviously, with planes and helicopters, that they are so dumb to realize. And then as they realize that, they're embarrassed and humiliated because of their stupidity and because of the ongoing illusion that they've been subject to, that they are superior. They're not superior to anything. They're not superior to fecal matter, all right? That they are necessarily consuming while they're stalking me like psychopaths. But they're humiliated by that because they're also giving evidence against the people. I'm going to prosecute you where you live, and you don't even have to be home. You're not a private citizen. All right? And I'm going to prosecute you as a terrorist as opposed to being a private citizen who has constitutional rights and protections, who actually has privacy. You don't have any privacy while you are engaging in the public entity's pattern of conduct. That same public entity that's flying in circles over your head. And guess what? It's also not about whether the fact that you like it or not. It's not based on that. And you'll find that out when you're in court and you are subject to the very charges that I recited to you on this podcast, where you're sitting around masturbating, all right, and hitting objects out of fury and sexual gratification mixed together because you're a psychotic. You are psychotic. This is the P.O.C. The entities engaged in this pattern of conduct following me from Upland to Ontario, which you also know by admission, while the entity is stalking me by helicopter in that little cozy little nook of area, very specific with regard to where the fake sun is. You're definitely stalking. You know exactly who I am, where I'm at. And while the entity flies in circles right there over that little nook where I'm at that fake church, you are following me. You know exactly who I am. And so does everyone that volunteers, works, attends that fake church. Those are demons that are, again, obligated by what is the disguise that they have. They have to act like they're pious people while they are cloaking outrage and hostility. License DJ56 Kevin 49. That's a paper plate. Gang stalker at the downtown Ontario Luxury Apartments parking lot at what is 6:31 p.m. This entity is engaging in that pattern of conduct, and they are doing so while you look at and listen to the entity that lost control. And that loss of control at Rock of Faith last night, while you juxtapose that to what is the senior pastor, who is also a demon. Remember, this is a pattern of conduct, and there is no exception. That fake sun is remaining over me morning and into the evening. When I go walks to Stater Brothers in the evening, that fake sun follows me to that venue, where it is over me in the morning. And these demons of the U.S. military, it's all over the record, while they then engaged in what is an act together. Oh, like you are only telling me to put my phone down because you see me documenting somebody that just made a verbalized threat to call the stalkers, the kidnappers, the sex offenders of the Ontario police about that which they also know didn't happen and would never happen. They're stalking me. Eddie's literally gang stalking me because he's invested in stealing from me, and he's not getting anything. He's getting a prison sentence. That's it. He's going to prison, and he's also, I want to be clear, he is a parent. I don't want to say he's a parent. He's a vagina monitor, and you can see how much of a psychopath he is. And he's going to be challenged with regard to his ability to even be in the presence of minors, since he's engaged in gang stalking me in this way. This is literally going to affect his ability to have access to children, including those that he has fathered. This is built into a prosecution for the entity, for the people of the state, that think that it's perfectly normal, and it's not, that you're going to engage in what is psychopathic behavior, such as stalking people, strangers, in ways in which you believe will never be caught, and then you exhibit this mental illness that the state and the people of the state exhibit together, while that is no longer the case, as I document and I show you that, and the entity is engaging in that conduct as though you're going to remain in access to children, and you're delusional in that regard as well. You're not. And neither is Eddie. This is the pattern of conduct. I'm at C Street in Euclid, where the ice cream man is the guys for audible activity under the fake sun. It is license plate 44978 Charlie 1. And if that's an immigrant, they're being deported. Just like with anyone, the entire state is going to be subject to deportation regarding any and all immigrants. This is the P.O.C. Let me go ahead and show you pictures. This is psychopathic pacing while impossible light moves across the face of the ice cream truck. Yummy ice cream that's probably incorporated, leading what is the charge of all these demons. 7 Apple Zebra Henry monitoring. 7 Apple Zebra Henry 989 pacing. License plate Edward David 64 Jerry 60 pacing. License 8 Xavier Robert Yolanda 860 pacing. And I'll show you the fake sun that was over me this morning as I captured an image of it before I walked to Upland, where you know that the entity is engaging in what is corporately stalking, commercial stalking, and doing so in a mentally ill manner, such as under a fake sun, such as in engineer light, and as a population. Okay, so this is, for example, what the entity is doing. So let me give you a sick illustration to help you understand how federal law is going to treat this. This is as though you are in an auditorium and a whole group of people decide to dress up in black robes, and they all bring butcher knives and they all take turns stabbing one person that they're all murdering together. This is an entity that is sharing in an ongoing established implied agreement based on their pattern of conduct to target someone, psychologically torture that person, sexually violate that person, and stalk them obsessively until murder is accomplished. This is as sick as engaging in that. You have an agreement to meet up at that auditorium. All right. You've engaged in kidnapping that person, and everybody's going to get a stab. Everyone. Okay, this is the entity that's gang stalking, and that's equally mentally ill behavior. And this is the entity's ongoing objective behind gang stalking in the first place. And the fake sun is over me at what is 6:35 p.m. and it was over me this morning. As you recall, the entity's stalking by commercial planes, which I went to the extent to document. Alrighty, this is P.O.C. This is the entity that's engaged in that conduct. And while you think you're going to take my life, you're losing custody of your children, and you're also going to prison where you violate the laws in the requisite manner. P.O.C. It is 6:36 p.m. Alrighty, it is currently 6:39 p.m. and the evidence shows Eddie that is engaging in what is assault and also engaging in what is a threat to commit criminal summoning, also engaging in what is criminal obstruction of justice by harassing me, and then trying to tell me that you don't give permission like the government gives permission to be prosecuted for criminal activity. That does not exist. And these are demons that are psychotic. They are engaging in behavior as though they are private citizens and as though they are not engaging in the criminal pattern of conduct. And that's already proven. It's already proven what they are and what they're doing and the malicious intent behind it. So while you behave as though it is the opposite, this is the evidence where you are establishing your own mental illness. And Eddie is engaging in psychopathic behavior yesterday, engaging in what is approaching me like he's going to bite me like a dog and start growling. He approaches in a very hostile and aggressive manner. And then he voices what is some murmured threat about stealing his property. I don't even know anything about his property, and I'm not into stealing. I don't. Anyway, so he voices this, but this is the reason why he's doing it is because I'm going to Rock of Faith. Understand, Rock of Faith is the one that doesn't want me there, just like the United Methodist Church. This is why the entity is, while I'm going there and no one is absent, me being stalked by helicopters should result in me not feeling welcome anymore and not going anymore, because that's how all of them who are gang stalking, those are their true sentiments. These are not Christians, and these are demons, and these are all gang stalkers who are equally being prosecuted while they are at the park and I am at the church and I'm being targeted by helicopter. It's speaking exactly to what is evidence. When I'm there next Friday and the entity engages in what is like they have been, no helicopter activity, as though none of them are gang stalking, because that's not what that suggests. In any court hearing, it will be, Your Honor, here is the evidence speaking to what is this church that's engaging in the pattern of conduct where on the record I am subject to terrorism by the U.S. military. That is the co-defendant of the people of the state at this facilitating venue in that specific environment. And they are engaging in what is a battery with intent and knowledge and high level of mentally ill levels of malice while they are engaging in that. And you are going to prison. Okay, I'm just giving you a very succinct example of how that's going to roll out. This is an entity that's engaging in this P.O.C. and Eddie is making a threat about calling the police about stealing his property. And he's doing so while he is gang stalking with that police department. And he's also doing so while the entity is stalking by plane. Southwest Airlines, Alaska Airlines are flying over that church while that fake sun is directly over me. And he's doing so with regard to yelling, creating what is a scene as I am protecting myself from him. And this is an entity that intended to make that statement, which then the entity at that fake church is jumping on, pouncing on. This was a plan at the outset. That was like lying in wait conduct by gang stalkers. This is the entity that engaged in that, harass her, and she'll document it. And I'm going to document it. And while you engage in that, you're going to prison. This is the entity that's, again, they don't understand what's happening. And that's because they are actually mentally ill. But that's the purpose behind what they're doing. I'm prefacing what I'm documenting right now with at 6:39 p.m., you will see the images, the proof that the entity is under the fake sun that I already captured moments ago upon my arrival is still present, which is speaking to surveillance. And you also know that Eddie is engaging in surveillance through the verbalized threat of criminal summoning and also what is assault, putting his hand in my face and after approaching me in a violent manner like he's going to hit me regarding his imagination that I stole something from him. But I want to be clear, this is exactly what the people of the state do. They do that. You will be physically attacked while the entity is a gang stalking you, and it's all a lie. This is the type of violent, and this is why I document, because these are the type of violent acts that the U.S. military, these homosexuals that are HIV infected and are bitter because what they're doing is not working against me, and it's not going to work, and it was never going to work. They engage in taking your life. They engage in physically assaulting you. They engage in stealing from you. They engage in damaging your property. They engage in ruining your whatever it is that you have, for example, your professional life, your romantic life, while everyone that you're surrounded by is engaged in that P.O.C. These are the things that they engage in, and they do so with regard to wanting to psychologically torment you before they kill you, before they kidnap you, before they depict you as being mentally ill, and you being the reason why all of those things in every area of your life disintegrated. All right. This is the surveillance system by miserable homosexuals who are so invested in targeting you. They use planes and helicopters. That's speaking to a statewide, very well financed pattern of conduct that the mayor, that the governor are not ignorant about. They're not. While the entity is providing evidence against Eddie, and also you have Jan that are at the sitting on the side. They're not by themselves. Those are obvious defendants while they're seated outside in the engineered light while the entity is hovering over the venue, just like it was this morning, following me to and from Upland, California. And as I arrive back at the Ontario Ovid Family Community Library, the entity is engaging in what is stalking, and you will see Eddie in a dark blue shirt and dark blue jeans. And he's the same one that's engaging what are making what you also know while he's gang stalking. He's lying, and he knows that he's lying. That's called malice. And he's also engaging in psychopathic behavior. That's how the malicious pattern of conduct, the people of the state and their behaviors while they're gang stalking, is going to be used against them by medical professionals who are going to diagnose them and have them committed. All right, this is psychopathic behavior that those that agree to meet at the amphitheater, to meet at the gymnasium, to all agree to stab one person while they all take a stab at it and that person dies. And then they engage in taking their robes off and be acting like it did not happen and that they don't know the target individual. When your mom engaged in taking a stab at it, your brother engaged in taking a stab at it, the police officer that kidnapped you last week and said that you were breaking into somebody else's house, which you never did, they took a stab at it, and they all share in that narrative about your character while they have all agreed to stab you one time each. When they're doing so hundreds of times, when hundreds of people take one stab at you, you are dead. That accomplishes your death. It's as one person stabbing you hundreds of times. They all take their turns at it. This is what the entity is doing, and you're going to be committed with that. They are being evaluated. Nothing that they intend to accomplish is working. It's going to be used so that you can diagnose mental illness. It's going to be used so that you can prosecute the malicious stalker. It's going to be used with regard to prosecuting the corporate entity that is providing the mask that has totally been burnt up, because everybody knows that the U.S. military and the Ontario police are behind stalking me by helicopters. And for that, I want to be clear. In the court, this is the courtroom right now, within the walls of a tribunal, you are going to hand over the entire government name of who is in that aircraft, and it's not the same person over and over again. You're going to prison. You're going to hand it over to me. You're going to volunteer it. And you're going to prison. And not cooperating with that, which is not going to happen in a tribunal, in a military tribunal at that, that's going to happen. They're going to be producing it, and there are also consequences severe were you to be delusional. This is what I'm stating. I'm documenting those as though you're going to tell the federal judge, you're going to tell a judge that you're not going to. They're delusional. They're going to do all of the above and more. This is what an entity is doing, though. And while Eddie is gang stalking, that's providing evidence about what the malice behind what Eddie said to me and what Eddie was doing and the purpose. And they're doing this against somebody that just went there to eat, that just wanted a meal, just like them. And they're hostile because the person that they're targeting, who is at the point of, remember, this is advocating because I'm prosecuting. But I am as I am disguised as this vulnerable person, the ordinary target individual is very much homeless and does not have evidence and is fearful of their life and is being harassed and terrorized every day, has lost everything that they own, don't have a dollar to their name. It's fearful of the average person that comes into their presence because they don't know if they're just going to start hitting them, they're going to accuse them, call the police on them, and the police are going to show up again and kidnap them, and then they're going to wind up in another ward for no reason about stuff that something that didn't even happen. These are the circumstances of someone that just wanted to eat. They were just hungry. And they're finding themselves being harassed like that at what's supposedly a church where the body of Christ is showing that they love you and there's nothing you can do about that love. That's what I'm showing you about. This is terrorism. It's levying war against those that they very well know do not have any defense. That is terrorism by the U.S. military. They're being locked up. This is the P.O.C. So are the people of the state, such as Eddie, that are who is gang stalking. This is directly speaking to the truth that he knows regarding everything that he said yesterday, and it's also going to the threat that he is to minor children, including his 2 daughters. This is the pattern of conduct at 6:48 p.m.